Can't believe it's already been 3 years since I started teaching high school level English. I feel so old now, considering how much experience I've gained since then. I used to be so nervous and timid around my students, but now everyone sees me as this cool, reliable, young, hip teacher. Hip? Who says that? I'm sure if my students heard that, they'd think I'm cringe. It's a good thing I like to keep my thoughts to myself, unlike some other teachers. But speaking of other teachers, why is it that I'm like the only one that's under the age of 35? I feel so out of place during staff meetings. It feels like I'm being treated like a student. I mean, yeah, I have a baby face, but could they at least show some sort of respect? I did go to one of Japan's prestigious colleges after all. They could at least acknowledge that, right? It's going to take years before that happens, unfortunately. No matter what I do, I won't ever see that kind of respect until the day I die, or become the principal of the school. But my qualifications, I should reach that in what, 20 years? Oh god. It's that time of the year again where all faculty members congregate in the staff room to discuss next year's lesson plans. In my opinion, it's kinda pointless since the majority of it is just rinse and repeat lesson plans. But I guess to justify the principal's authority, we have to. I was planning on just zoning out and acknowledging the principal's words, but that soon changed when he announced that we would be getting a new PE teacher. Finally, a topic other than lesson plans. When the principal announced a PE teacher, I imagine a buff 30-year-old guy with muscles eclipsing his own head. Now that would be a sight to see. But to my surprise, it was a woman in her 20s named Tenjoin Sakurai. She had long jet black silky hair that draped down to her waist with a slim refined figure. As she introduced herself to the faculty, our eyes met. I quickly looked away in panic. Did she notice me checking her out? Crap. What should I say to her if she questions me about that? Maybe something like, "Oh, I was just expecting some buff dude," or, "You seem very athletic." Well, duh, of course she would be. She's a PE teacher, dumbass. Oh, crap. What am I going to do? Throughout the remainder of the meeting, my brain scattered to all the different conversational possibilities that would come up when we would talk. But that would soon come to an end when the principal dismissed us for the day. Since I wasn't thinking about what I was going to do for my lesson plans, I frantically looked over the paperwork on my desk left by the principal. One by one, everyone who was responsible enough to not zone out started to leave until only one remained. The PE teacher, Tenjoin Sakurai. I looked over to see what she was up to out of pure curiosity. As soon as I looked her way, our eyes met again. I looked back to my paperwork. I heard a faint hello coming from her direction. It would be rude to ignore her, so I replied as any normal person would. She introduced herself again, which in turn, I introduced myself to her. She looked surprised when I told her I've been working here for a little over 3 years now. But then she gave me a sigh of relief, explaining that she was afraid that she would be the only teacher at the school that was under the age of 30. I reciprocated her relief and talked to her about how we should hang out after school to get to know each other better. Surprisingly, she said she had the same idea. And with that being said, we both mutually agreed on a time and place. Here comes the end of the week, and it was time to meet up with Sakurai. I was a bit anxious since this was my first time since high school that I was going to hang out with someone. I never had time to make friends in college, so it was nice to finally have a social life again. We decided to meet outside of the train station near the school. A few minutes go by, and I hear a cheerful hello. Sakurai was in a white long summer dress with a black purse hanging from her right shoulder. She looked so beautiful. I couldn't help but stare at her with awe. I frantically said hello as I assembled my thoughts together. She giggled and insisted that we should make our way to the shopping center nearby. I helplessly followed from behind. I can't believe I'm actually doing this. It almost feels like a date, huh? but I'm sure she must be thinking otherwise. Gotta pull myself together, remember. This is just an outing for 2 teachers. Nothing is going to happen, sadly. After a few hours of walking around and making small talk, we decided to make our way towards the bar. As we arrived, I was expecting something a little bit classy, but it was an all-you-can-drink bar. Usually a bar like these were reserved for moments when you eat out with your boss or your whole staff, but for us to be in a place like this, that was a surprise. I didn't mind it too much, since I knew it wasn't going to be some classy restaurant where everything would be pretty expensive. I guess she did see this as an outing between 2 colleagues. Figured as much. We both got comfortable and sat down at a table. Moments later, after 5 drinks, we started opening up about her life outside of school. Things like where we went to college and what we wanted for the future. It came to the point where Sakurai couldn't really say a straight sentence without angrily slamming her mug of beer on the table. At this point, I knew it was time to take her home. She is way too drunk. Of course, like any drunk, she denied that she was, but that was an obvious lie. After a little push, I was able to get her home address. At first, I was just going to get her a cab and call it a day, but she didn't seem stable enough to even manage the rest of the walk to her place. So, as the gentleman that I am, I escorted her to her apartment. Once we arrived, she handed over her apartment keys without a second thought. I was surprised she didn't put up a fight or insisted that this was far enough. I opened up the door and assisted her inside. As I held her up by the arm, she suddenly slammed the door closed and locked it. I wasn't surprised since drunks are often very spontaneous with their actions. But for some reason, I felt like this was on purpose. As though it was part of a greater agenda that she had for me. Suddenly, she reached into her purse and took out a small white cloth. I didn't think twice until she forced it onto my face, pushing me down onto the floor. I tried to remove her hands off of my face, but it was too late. I could feel my eyes becoming heavier and my strength grow weaker by the second. As my mind became a black void of nothingness, my last thought was of the moment when she greeted me back at the faculty office. Next thing I knew, my vision started to become clear. I looked up to see Sakurai examining every inch of my body. Realizing what just happened, I panicked and asked her what happened, but was restrained to a wooden chair with thick, heavy rope. I couldn't move anything. What was going on? Why is this happening? I wanted to ask Sakurai, but my mouth was covered up in duct tape. Her face drifted to meet my eyes, and with a sinister smile on her face, she said, "I finally have you, senpai."